and I show you all of the windows off. So this is off and on, off and on. So look at how much detail we've recovered in our sky. All right, welcome back. Today we're gonna be playing around with power windows and seeing how they can create some insane looks. And I think power windows are just like overlooked as a tool. So yeah, we're gonna be going through how I use power windows in my grading. So first of all, I do have a look on here already, and I'm just gonna very quickly show you. If you wanna just skip to the timestamp where we actually start the power windows, go for it. So first of all, I will show you, this is Rec 709, and here is our log footage. Here's Rec 709. So I'm converting from, as always, Slog3 to DaVinci Wide Gamut, and then from DaVinci Wide Gamut to Rec 709. And then here I've got the actual look. So if you're working on a bigger project and you want to apply some kind of LUT or look or film emulation or whatever to the whole thing, that's coming like right at the end of the grading process. So you have all of your balancing and then the look right at the end. So this is what we've got going. It's basically like a Kodak 2383. I might do a breakdown video if you want to see that. Let me know in the comments. But this is the basic look that we've got going. All right, so let's get into it. So I've basically created a bunch of parallel nodes here, which you can do by pressing Alt S to create a serial node, and then you can press Alt P and just keep pressing P to give you a bunch of parallels. And we're going to be using parallels because I want all of these windows to basically act like at the same time, because we're going to be making exposure adjustments and we want all of those things to happen at the same time. First of all, I'm going to do a kind of global exposure contrast balancing adjustment in the top node. So this isn't actually going to be a window. This is just going to be our general balancing. So if I go in here, I'm just going to start messing around with my contrast, because the LUT that I'm applying is going to be like introducing some contrast, but you have to be balancing all of your clips. So I'm literally just using lift gamma gain here. So I'm going down with my gain, up with gamma, down with lift, and this is looking not too bad. So this is before and after, before and after. And I'm going to come back out so you can see the adjustments that I've made here. I've just gone very slightly down with my lift, down with my gain a little bit, just to pull this information out of the sky, basically. All right, so let's get into the actual windows. So number one, look at your image, okay? Look at your image first and decide what you want to do with it. Okay, so first of all, I want a nice blue sky, and I want to introduce a bunch of warmth over here, and I want to get a nice blue sky going. So I'm going to create a window around this kind of hill in the background. And if you're wondering how I'm getting this kind of spline, when you create a point, if you hold your mouse and then drag, you're going to create this nice curve. So you can kind of like, you can click and hold and click and hold and click and pull it. So obviously we don't want to be creating this thing, but just if you're wondering how I did that. And now I'm going to use my highlight tool, which is Shift H, and I'm just going to soften this out, and we'll adjust all of this as we actually grade. And now what I can start doing is I can start to add color, I can adjust my contrast, I can adjust my exposure. So we're going to start by going in our gain. So if you watch the gain wheel down here, I'm pulling this towards blue, okay? And I'm going to go in my HDR wheels, and I'm going to use the light tool. And if you click this, you'll see what you're selecting. So for example, if I go to a specular, nothing is being selected here. Can you see how everything is gray, right? And if I go to my dark, again, everything is gray. Whereas if I go in my light or highlight, yeah, light is going to be the best tool here. And if you wanted to adjust the range of values that you're selecting, again, you can press Shift H. So I'm going to press Shift H. And if I move this up and down, can you see how as I move it up, we are basically no longer selecting the sky. And as I pull it back, we are capturing all of those luminance values. So I'm just going to leave that where it was actually, because I'm pretty happy with that anyway. And we are gonna come out of this, and I'm just going to come out of my highlight tool and start bringing the exposure down of the sky very slightly, not too much of an adjustment. So we're doing like, yeah, basically like 0.1-ish. If I go before and after, look at what we've done in just one node. Okay, so before and after, before and after. So we've introduced all of this color. Now you might say that, well, this doesn't look too natural. We've got this like kind of weird blurry thing, like what's going on. I want to clean this up. So we can do that. We can go into our power window and we can feather this out a little bit more. And we can do this. We can bring this up a little bit. And you can go in and you can play around and you can adjust it how you like. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks perfectly fine to me. That looks great. We're introducing a little bit of kind of it. We've given this a little bit of a gradient, but this part of the mountain is darker anyway, or of the hill. I don't know, is that a hill or a mountain? This part is darker anyway than the bottom, so I'm fine. I'm cool with that. That looks great to me. Now let's go on to the second window, and I'm gonna create a mask around this foreground element. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm just going to mask this out, and I'm gonna zoom in quite a bit here just to make sure that we're absolutely grabbing everything. And we might also do some noise reduction on this clip later, because I am seeing quite a bit of noise, but we do have grain in our look, so that's adding to the texture a little bit anyway. And we're going to bring that over there. Okay, cool. Then what I'm going to do is soften this out. So again, I use my highlight tool, come in here, and let's just increase the softness everywhere and just soften this out. Okay, and I'm going to come out, and you can press Z, by the way, on your keyboard. Once you've zoomed in, you can just press Z to come straight back out. And now if I go into my primaries and start messing around, look what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just affecting this area, and I want to increase the contrast a little bit, and I want to bring this a little bit warmer. Okay, so I'm just going to take my gamma, start pushing this towards orange. Okay, I'm going to come down with my lift, up with my gamma, up with my gain a little bit, down with my lift. I'm going to go a little bit more towards orange with gamma, and let's see, where do we want to put this? Let's say we want to leave it there. So before and after, before and after. Maybe I want to increase the contrast even more. So I'm using my panel, but I'm going up with gamma and down with gain, okay? And you want to zoom in and make sure that everything is looking natural. So if I go on and off, this looks fine. This is great. I'm very happy with this, to be honest. Whereas if you're doing this, if you're going to go crazy, you're going to start to see some of that leaking out into the rest of your image. So you're going to want to play around with your softness. So the inside is going to, if I show you the actual window, the inside is going to affect basically the inside of the window. So how much feathering you have on that part of the window, and the outside is going to feather it off in the opposite direction. And the softness is like overall softness. So we're going to just leave that as it is. I'm going to reset my gain here, because obviously we don't want everything pink. And press Z to zoom out. And let's go before and after. I quite like this. I quite like this look. Again, all of this is completely up to you. All personal preference. If you wanted this a different color, you are absolutely entitled to do whatever you want. This is just the look that I'm going for. One big tip with power windows, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, this looks kind of messy, right? But when you look at it on a full screen, you're never really gonna notice it. Okay, you're never gonna notice like that there's like some funky shape going on. And this looks great. This looks fantastic. Obviously, you have to remember to track your mask. So we would hit this button, track forward and reverse, and then that will track it throughout the rest of the clip. I'm also going to add another window to the sky, actually, because I want to, let's create a shape. I want to kind of darken this area very slightly to match the rest of the sky. So I'm going to soften this out. I'm going to go inside, outside, and I'm actually going to drag this out to here. And I'll show you why in a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go my gain, push a little bit more blue, so a tiny bit more blue. Okay, let's see, before, after, before, after. Okay, bring it down a touch, just a tiny bit. I might feather this in and bring it down, bring it down. I'm just trying to blend the sky a little bit more. And I'm going to go before and after, before and after. So maybe I want to feather this out further to the right. So I'm going to do that. Again, all of this is up to you. You look at this and you think, actually, I like having that kind of corner of my sky a little bit brighter, but I'm going to keep it like that, I think. Maybe we'll make it a little bit more kind of teal as opposed to blue, and something like that. So if we look at the two sky nodes, that was before, okay, and that was after. So look at the difference that we've made in our sky. And then we've also brought in this kind of beautiful, like reddish orange stone color. Okay, and then the last thing that I'm going to do is create a vignette. And vignetting, again, totally up to you. It's all personal preference, whether you like it, whether you don't. I quite like the sort of filmic aspect that a vignette gives you, because when you're in a cinema, I learned this from my time with Katie Leonard, the assistant colorist of Hamlet. The reason we actually have vignetting on, we put vignettes on digital to make them look more filmic or cinematic, is because in a cinema, you're not actually seeing light straight, like coming straight off of a screen. The light's not coming directly at you. It's coming off of a projector, bouncing off of a white board, which is the like screen in front of you, but the light is bouncing off of the cinema screen and then hitting your eye. So naturally the edges are going to be a little bit darker, and that's why we create a vignette. So you can do that by creating a window like an oval shape, hitting this button here to invert the mask. So if I just showed you, this is if we don't invert it, and then this is if we invert it. And obviously we don't want it pink. I'm just going to take my gamma, come down a little bit. Maybe I'll move this up slightly, and I'm going to bring down my gain a tiny bit, and we'll go a little bit heavier. And I'm going to take some saturation out a tiny bit. And there we go. Before and after, before and after. So this is why we have vignettes in digital, to make them look more filmic. So now let's have a look at our entire structure of parallel nodes. So this is before and after, okay? Before and after. What we've managed to do with our nodes, and actually, you know what? I'm deciding I'm gonna take a little bit of that orange back out from this node. As you start to kind of pull some exposure out of your sky, you can go back in your balance and bring everything up, and this is looking pretty good. So if I take this, if I actually leave that where it is, and I show you all of the windows off, so this is off and on, off and on. So look at how much detail we've recovered in our sky, right? There are all of these clouds that we've brought back up here. We've introduced so much color. It doesn't look unrealistic, okay? And at the same time, we've managed to create color separation by adding blue in our sky and changing the color of this foreground element. You can even, I might even go in here and increase the mid detail a little bit. So I'm literally just bringing this up. Maybe that's too heavy. We'll just go to maybe around 15-ish. And there we go. So before and after, before and after. And then the whole look, that's that's Rec 709, and that's our look. So before and after. If I go full screen, this is before and after. So look at how much information. This is straight out of the camera. This isn't log, this is Rec 709, okay? And we've added so much juice and punch and color separation, and we've recovered this, like, it looks so like HDR almost, because we've managed to retain so much information in the sky, and oh, it's just looking good. It's looking really, really nice. So yeah, that's a quick little rundown as to how you can use your parallel nodes and windows to not only create shaping in your image, but to actually grade with them. Because I feel like usually people are using windows to just adjust exposure, but you can absolutely be adding color in places as well. And then yeah, last thing to remember is just to track your masks forward and reverse. This clip, actually, I had the camera locked off on a tripod, so the tracking is going to be pretty simple. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.